Hello, can everyone hear me? All right, perfect. So I had an existential crisis in January, and this is pretty much what came from it. Yep. So, quick background. So I moved from Brisbane to Melbourne in 2022. So I'm a big guy. I enjoy startups. I love startups, but from the technical side. So I love diving deep into systems programming, low-level latency, database management, yada yada yada. But what I really enjoy at the end of the day is also building products that that other people use other than me. So I also, my experience also extends to developer relations, thanks to my status as a micro-niche internet celebrity. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it's basically I get to go to conferences and get free stickers, but not free accommodations. and at my previous life, I worked as a quantitative developer. So for those of you who don't know what that means, it's basically you make trading systems that trade money. Sometimes you make money, sometimes you lose money, but the important thing is that code is involved. So yeah, so this is a tweet from Andrej Karpathy in December 27, 2025. If anyone who knows Andrej Karpathy, he's the head of autopilot at Tesla. This guy is like at the frontier. He's co-founder of OpenAI and currently a member of technical staff at Anthropic. And I quote him: "I've never felt this behind as a programmer." Upon reading this, it's like, wow, what a humble brag. This guy's like at the frontier and he's like throwing crumbs at us, peasants. But if you've actually watched any of his talks, you would realize that this guy is very genuine. Like he's allergic to irony and sarcasm. So this tweet where it starts with "I've never felt this much behind as a programmer" is a genuine feeling that this guy is feeling. It's not something that he's throwing out there to gain sympathy, which he doesn't need, or any kind of or humble bragging. So my second thought on this is that if this guy thinks he's cooked, what about me? Do I need to get on this treadmill? Do I need to? What else do I need to do? Because as I previously mentioned, I was a quantitative developer, and you basically write systems that trade with real money. So using AI has always been at an arm's length. You don't actually want your AI to vibe code your trading systems because when it hallucinates, you're losing real money. And so the extent of my experience has always been, give me this SQL query, give me this, Grafana dashboard, make this data viz prettier, yada, yada, yada. It's basically very auxiliary stuff, and it's never in the core system because you want that, guarantee that you're not just, sending money into a void. So that's my experience. And after reading about this, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should give it a go. On Twitter, there's people who's claiming they've built a whole startup in 7 days. So I thought I would give it a crack. And I checked it out, and I'm immediately drowning. You have MCP, CLI, GLM, QN, Tree of Thought, Forest of Thought, Chain of Thought, MOEs, RLHF, agents, agent harnesses, context window, Droid, open code, and the whole shebang. Some of these sounds like Pokemon names. Sometimes they sound like peptides. I don't know. It's just it's really hard to get the hang of it. And keep in mind, I actually assembled this talk in April, so this is compounded probably 20x since. Yeah. Oh, and the community. Don't get me started on the community. Now I love DDD. It's great. Developers. But the AI community really is something else. Right? Yeah. You have one camp saying that vibe coding is the future, coding character by character is dead. And then you have another camp, which is basically saying if you vibe code, you should be ashamed of yourself, your whole bloodline's gonna curse at you, yada, yada, yada. But there's another camp, the AI agent tooling camp. And I need to get this up because I need to read it from my script. So I want to, they're building entire civilizations around AI. And if anyone's heard of this tool, I want to talk about, oh my God. Oh, Gastown. I want to talk about Gastown. Has anyone heard about Gastown? Yes. Okay. So Gastown, I need to read from the script now. So Gastown is a multi-agent orchestration system. So there's like 15,000 stars on GitHub right now. It's a real project. There's real people that's using it, and I need you to hear how it works. So you are the human. You talk to the mayor. The mayor coordinates your workspace. So the mayor creates convoys, and convoys are bundles of work items called beads, tracked in a dependency-aware graph. The mayor slings beads to polecats, so these are your worker agents, and polecats store their work in hooks, which are Git worktree-based persistent storage. So if a polecat gets stuck, the witness detects it, and that's the per-rig health monitor. And if the witness can't fix it, it escalates it to the deacon, and that's the cross-rig supervisor. The deacon dispatches dogs for supervisor, and the completed work goes to the refinery, and that's the merge queue. And if you want to talk to a dead agent session, it's another story. So I'm not making any of this up, right? This is in the README, and these are official pictures from the actual repository itself. There's also like an extension. There's a wasteland, which is like this federated work coordination network between multiple gas towns, so you can earn reputation through multi-dimensional stamps. So I'm not trying to dunk on Gastown. It's clearly working for some people. Running 20 or 30 agents at the same time. But all I wanted to do was from the title of the talk was figure out how to put dots in a map. So at some point I'm reading about mayors and polecats and beads and and wastelands, and at some point you gotta ask yourself if you've lost the plot a little bit. So anyway, regarding Gastown, I think there's one. Yeah, regarding Gastown, my personal conspiracy theory is that they're they're merchants of complexity, where they're trying to sell you stuff that you don't necessarily need. Basically, I want to 10x your token usage to maximize shareholder value. So that's my personal conspiracy theory. Anyway, if you're wondering what I ended up using, I ended up using pi.dev with GPT 5.5. I was using Claude at one point, but the flavor of LLMs, it changes every hour these days. Like it's Composer 2.5, then it's like QN, and then now it's like Claude Fable. I think it's Fable. It came out today, 5.0, and then there's always by the time this talk finishes, it's probably like a new LLM. So yeah, I end up using pi.dev because it's very simple, it's very extensible. Like you can ask it to build plugins for itself. Like if you haven't checked it out, I'm not paid by Pi in any way. It's like free, it's open source. And I think OpenClaw used it as its harness like a while ago. Yeah, I highly encourage you to play around with it. You don't need to know any code. Okay, so I have this .txt file that I've been extending for about 10 years, and I don't know if anybody realizes this, but Google Keep has a limit on how much characters you can put in it, and I've hit that limit, just FYI. So one of my projects that I've always wanted to do was a real-time map that shows you the public transport of Victoria. So I wanted to be able to visualize all the trams, or the bus, or the trains on a map in a very intuitive and smooth user interface. And yeah, you're right. Like something like this already exists. It's called AnyTrip. But the problem with AnyTrip is that the minute you zoom out of your current cluster, it lags, it jitters, and the animations there's no animations at all. Like buses and the dots just teleport on the map. Just is not a very pleasant experience. Now, the Victorian government actually has this open data initiative where you can get the GTFS data for public transport. It's real-time data for the public transports, like trams, trains, and buses. And all you have to do is sign up, and you get an API key, and you get a protobuf stream, and you can start playing around with it. So I thought this would be a perfect project for me. You have complex enough data. You have a UI that's quite complicated. Like displaying data on a map might sound intuitive, but there's a lot of grunt work and plumbing that goes on behind the scenes. And so real project and a complex enough project. And so I thought a vibe coding I go. And you know what? I am not gonna lie. This project, the AI crushed it. Before it would take me about 3 weeks just to get the plumbing done. Like I remember in university, I would spend hours setting up ESLint for my profile, and then now I had to read the protobuf specs, and I had to like get the right protobuf specs. Maybe my header was incorrect by like a character. There's no spacing between my auth token and my token itself. You know, there's like always these little headaches, but the AI just crushed it. Like scaffolding was done in 15 minutes. I kid you not. Like within 15 minutes, I got dots on a map displaying. It worked, but it was also the kind of thing where it looked like a weekend project. It was stuff was there, but it was very janky. It felt like, you know, it's like those projects where you would show on Twitter where it's like, you would crop everything out so you only see like the best parts. But yeah, that's what I came to realize about AI is that AI is like this this tool that gives you this large block of foam, and your goal as a developer is to kind of carve it out into something that resembles what you want. You know, it's like there's this old line where it's like perfection is not when you have nothing else to add, but when you have nothing else to take. And that's kind of how I'm approaching this section now. It's like occasionally you might smooth out the edges, occasionally you might glue something on, but at the end of the day, you're carving things out from this large scaffolding structure that the AI gave you. Yeah, so I'll show you a demo if it loads. I'm gonna blame the internet of how it looks. Whoops. Boop. Okay, yeah, like, so this was the MVP. I don't know if you can see, it's very, very janky. I hope everyone can see the little dots, like, teleporting between each component. Like, keep in mind, this was like done in 15 minutes. Like, I just basically chucked in, please do this and please do that, and then it gave me this mess where trams were teleporting between buildings, you know, trains were going through buses, and you know, a bunch of like random edge cases that did not feel intuitive. Yes. So yeah. So unfortunately, taste is real. You know, like throughout this whole process in vibe coding, like I've been hearing a lot of things like, you know, craft, taste, you know, yada, yada, yada. And you know, every time I hear those things, I roll my eyes to the back of my head because, you know, like I used to work as a quantitative developer. So the only things that was tasty or craftful was when, you know, the number go up, sort of deal, you know, when you make money or not. But here it's like, oh, wow, it's a real thing. But then I'm staring at this UI where my trams are teleporting through buildings, you know, my trains, the arrows are like rotating 360 degrees. Then I realized, you know, the AI was actually doing what I asked it to do. It was just me being super vague. And, you know, once I gave it more clearer instructions, like it was able to actually fix those issues by itself. So for example, what I said at the beginning was like, make a live visualization of Melbourne's transport network. But if you make it extremely hyper-specific, it gives you like a React app with like a Canvas 2D overlay, and you know, it stutters at like 200 vehicles. But if you tell it instead, I want a deck.gl scatter plot, well, a lot of technical terms now, on map.gl, it gives you something that's GPU accelerated. You know, you can render it at 60 FPS. You get like 2,000 vehicles. It's very smooth, and I can show you guys a live demo later. And if you want a historical playback, what it would recommend is you get a SQLite dump with this very janky slider, and this is like extremely space inefficient. But instead, I told it I want a DuckDB. For those of you who don't know what DuckDB is, it's a time series database that you can compile to WASM. So it runs entirely in the browser, and it has this fancy format called Parquet, which is a lot more efficient than your traditional, you know, data frames. And you can stream the chunks of these Parquet data to the browser via DuckDB WASM. And so you get like this YouTube-style buffered time lapse where you don't have to load up, you don't have to download the entire database before you can play a scene. And it's like, it works a lot better when you know the jargon that you need to prompt the AI, which is the taste and the craft bit. Yeah, so this is how it looks now. I think probably doesn't show you the best But when you, this is like a very big pet peeve of mine. So when you load up the page, I really want it there to be like instantaneous animation. It has to be smooth. It has to have user feedback immediately, because that's how you know a product is working, right? If you open a page and it doesn't load for like 10 seconds, I'm out. Like, especially since it's a free website, like I'm out. But what I wanted, on load, animations that matches the route, and that's what I was able to achieve just by changing a few prompts. I can show a live demo later if anyone's interested, by the way. But yeah, so that leaves me to the question, like, so where are we? What are we now? By we, I mean software developers. So for this project, I did not write any code at all. So instead, what I did was I decided what to build, and I focused on intent, on outcomes, on very high-level technical implementations. And that's the taste part. It's not the code. It's about what you want the product to do, how it feels, and how you interact with it. That's the craft. And I think to Gordon's previous point, what do we do now? Like, what skills can we do? It's like before. I think the job has changed significantly. It hasn't disappeared, but it's changed. So, before you might have an idea and you might spend like 80% of the time coding it if it's a software project, and 20% on the specs. I think now it's like an inverse, where you spend like 80 to 90% on the specs, and you chuck it to the end, and it's just like it's done. So implementation is the easy part if you know the jargon. The hard part is understanding like what tools to use, how do you architect it at the very beginning. This is very, very crucial, because if you place it at the wrong spot, it's going to roll down the hill and land in at the completely different direction where you wanted it to. So it's like extremely important. And so how and you need to know how to polish it up and how to like go back and fix mistakes. And that only comes with experience, unfortunately. And look, I understand that that's uncomfortable. If your whole personality and identity was, I'm gonna type out my code character by character, and AI is gonna write all the code, you're gonna be a bit sad. But if you're like a high-level implemented executor, as I like to say, and you realize that AI is gonna write all the code, it's actually I'm quite optimistic, because now I'm freeing up all my time. I have leverage now. That's to Gordon's point. It's like AI is going to write all the code. It's like you have different ways of viewing it. Like, and I encourage you to be on the left side of the bus. I think, depending on right side of the bus. You guys, yep. My right, not your right. Anyway. But yeah. So sorry. This talk was created like 2 months ago, so I might have forgotten some bits here and there, because it was originally made for Melbourne JS, and I decided to submit to DDD. Thank you for accepting me. And I was not very responsive for the email, but thank you anyway. Yes. But yeah, so the thing I actually care about is that, building this project actually reminded me a lot about this hackathon energy that I used to have. Like no business model, no, we're gonna align synergies, like here's our go-to-market strategy, just people who like to build things for the purpose of building things, which was what I felt very strongly in university and in Brisbane with the whole startup culture. And I used to love that, and somewhere along the way with working, and it got replaced by all these networking events and career accelerators and hackathons that are sponsored by banks, where you're supposed to make a kids banking app as a MVP so that you can get them while they're young. But anyway, sorry, AI has brought back that energy for me. So the tools are so fast now that the time that it takes you to go from I have an idea to I have an implementation has collapsed to almost zero now. Like if you want like an MVP to play around with, you can just prompt it and you get an MVP, and you can kind of figure out what's suitable. So there's like companies, and there's like events that I really like. This is Symposium in Canada, in Waterloo. I don't know if anyone knows about them, but this is it's like the AFL for builders in Canada. It's basically like sponsored by Shopify, and literally you just get a bunch of very talented people. Very talented people to go up stage and present what they did with like no motivation of selling a product or a company or some kind of or any other like marketing intent behind it. It feels very pure. You have like college kids talking about like their custom built TPUs, and you have like other people talking about their real time like speaker system that you can sync up with thousands of phones on the auditorium. It's like very motivational. So yeah, I'll be quick. Sorry. Anyway, I just think Australia is very bad at building because because I think the reason is because all my brightest friends have been shuffled into the property market or working at Combank, so or flipping a Footscray bedroom. But yeah, anyway, that's my ask. I just want to find pockets of community where people really like building. If you can, please talk to me later. I would love to be included. Thank you. And any questions? Yeah, yes. Oh, I think there's a...
My understanding is that Pi selling point is that it's very vanilla.
Yes.
Did you end up writing anything that is beyond what you thought, like skills or agents, or did the vanilla just work for you?
Vanilla works pretty well. You could, like, I ended up copying a lot of the, so initially I was using Claude Code, sorry, I'll jump back a bit. I was using Claude Code, but then like the creator, Claude Code became impossible to reason about. You know, I type in a prompt and it's like, I'm spinning up 20 agents to do a research. And then before I'm gonna research, I'm gonna compress your context and then chuck it back to the main context. It became impossible to reason about. So eventually I went to Pi, but there are certain features from Claude, like the /BTW, where you can spawn a side chat and ask it, given the current context, like questions. And so I did end up building a plugin for that. In fact, it was so easy. I just said, look at the Claude Code / by the way command and implement it for Pi. I didn't write any code at all, and it just did it like so. But yeah, it's super easy.
Nice. We got a question online. What was your workflow for the map project?
For the map project, it's probably a bit outdated now, but essentially I had a docs folder which contained all the markdown, which is almost like a directory for the AI agent on how to manage the repositories. For example, I had a coding style which I copied from Tiger Beetle. I don't know if anyone knows Tiger Beetle here. Yes, no, okay. Like it's a coding style. It's like very opinionated ways of doing things, and then from there. That's what I would do now. It's like I would have a docs folder that you can render in HTML so you can code from your phone, because then you can prompt the agent, ask it to do things, and you can then view your documentation site on your phone. I don't know, I feel like I'm going a bit of a tangent here, but in the docs folder, you can also specify like architecture requirements. So for example, if you're using like a Python code base, and I'm a functional guy here, so I like FP a lot. So you might say, I want decorators, or I want to use high order functions, and this is like the specific coding style I like, or and here's some examples. And you can make the AI conform to that. And it's also very good because it's like a high level directory that's always up to date. And then you can kind of work your way from there. But most of the time, what you're doing is like spec engineering rather than actually coding. Yes.
Nice. Based on your, this will be the last question. Yeah. Based on your side project here, would you say a deep understanding of systems engineering architecture is more important than ever?
I would say it's good to have it. It's not necessarily required, but it does really help when you're reading a blob of text that the AI spits out, and then you can quickly identify, oh, actually, that's like kind of stupid. Like, please do not do that. Like, it definitely helps, but it's not required if you just want like something that's been done to death, like a generic CRUD app, for example. Like, you don't need it, but it'll be good to have. So, you know, I know it's like, yeah, it doesn't really answer the question, but it would, to answer the question, yes, it will be good, but you don't need it. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.